advantage, and a lot of drivers rejoicing at the low gas prices right now. Historic lows, no less. Less than a dollar per liter spotted at 70th and Granville last night. But for some context, this has serious implications for our Canadian economy. We're going to bring in an expert right now, Dan McTeague in Ontario. And first of all, Dan, talk to us about, without getting into a whole geopolitical history lesson, why are we seeing these historic lows for gas prices, not only here, but across the country?
Thor, it has everything to do with the coronavirus and the fact that demand globally has shrunk dramatically. Early estimates thought it was 8% drop in oil demand. It might be a lot closer to 20%. So at the same time, while you're seeing people not going to work, usual economic activity, airplane, automobile, etc., all of those things have been shut down to a large extent or curtailed, and that's really what's responsible for this dramatic drop. Oil was $63 a barrel back on January 1st. Today, struggling at $20 a barrel. And for Canadian oil, only $7.47 at the point.
Are we seeing these kind of gas prices across the board, like coast to coast, not just on the west here in Vancouver?
Oh, pretty much everywhere. In fact, we're doing a lot better than the Americans are. There seems to be some stickiness in their prices. We've seen prices in Toronto, for instance, down to about 77 cents a litre. Winnipeg, about 82 cents, 81 cents a litre, even as low as 72, 71. If you look at Calgary, 65, 66 is the new normal. Edmonton, even lower than that. Even on the East Coast, which traditionally has much higher prices, they're still looking at about 79, 80 cents a litre. Montreal, a little higher taxes, of course. They're pushing down towards $1 a litre.
And could you just elaborate a little bit on this price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia and how that affects the prices?
Look, the world is saturated with oil. No one wants it. No one's buying it. And just at that time when this virus is having the effect on demand destruction, Saudi Arabia got ticked off at Russia and decided to begin flooding the market, saturating an already oversaturated market. And of course, Russia has responded and said they're going to increase output. Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and the Americans aren't going to slow down either. So we have a pretty significant grim outlook for oil supply and for price itself. Little wonder Canada is now the first real victim of that price war and that oversupply production war.
And just give us a sense of the correlation between the struggling Canadian dollar and this sort of breakdown right now of the Canadian energy sector.
Yeah, Thor, when it comes to oil, it's about 20% of Canada's total exports. It represents about 10% of our economy, 10% of the GDP. So when it goes from $40 a barrel back in January, or even $38 back in the end of February, all the way down to $7.47, you get a pretty good understanding of why the Canadian dollar, which is used as a mode of exchange, has dropped so dramatically. And it affects everybody, even those areas that don't have oil and think nothing of it. 2 weeks ago, 133 pennies per US dollar. Today it's 105. That's about a 7% drop in our purchasing power for every single commodity we use in this country. So it's a very serious situation. Quite apart from the coronavirus having an effect on everyone's jobs and the government needing to dip even deeper into revenues to mitigate the effects of this virus and the effects on the economy, there's no more revenue. And that's a very serious problem, I think, for lawmakers and those looking at various options for the economy. We're in for some pretty grim times ahead, and your number one industry takes a hit.
Okay, Dan, we really appreciate the insight and you being available this morning. And you take care and stay safe.
Thanks, Thor. Down 3 cents tomorrow, by the way, to 109.9 at the top end here in Vancouver.
Okay, you heard it here. Thanks so much, and we'll talk soon. That's Dan McTeague with a little bit of insight there on the gas prices and its effect on our economy. More BT to come.